What's up, y'all? Welcome to another video. So today we're going to be in the entrepreneurship category and we're going to be talking about this. So 5 years ago, I was able to jump out there, quit the job, right? A lot of fear when it came to doing that. A lot of things that were going through my mind as if you're thinking about jumping out there, quitting that full-time position, a lot of things that might be going through your head. Today we're going to be talking about some of those fears I had and how you can push through some of those to maybe take that jump for yourself. Let's go. Alright, so let's get started on this. So if you don't know my story already, 5 years ago I was working in corporate, really loved what I was doing, enjoyed it, right? Working for a technology consulting firm that consulted with large banks, Wells Fargo, TIAA-CREF, which is a retirement company. But I knew that I wanted to work for myself in some way, wanted to be an entrepreneur, and this came from years ago in middle school when I was selling candy and all those type of things. Always knew that in some way I wanted to work for myself in some capacity. So here's my journey. I went to talk with a life coach who kind of showed me that there was a way to speak to people around the country, share a message, get paid to do it, and be able to impact while getting paid. And I was like, oh, that sounds like an amazing thing that I wanted to do based on a lot of things that I did in my past. I'll explain that at some point. That led me to being able to speak and travel the country doing what I'm able to do now. So while I was doing that, right, I decided that I wanted to quit my job within 1 year, right? One of those biggest fears that came up for me was the fear of failure, right? So what would happen if, because at that point, y'all, I had a car payment, right? I had a house. I had a pretty good life, great. I could buy things that I wanted, right? So it wasn't hurting for cash at that point. I'm like, yo, Daryl, you have all these things, right? What would happen if you jumped out there, you were on the trajectory at that point to make 6 figures in your corporate job? Like, what if you jump out there, you don't make it, and you fail in some way? So that was the first thing that went through my mind, as I know that for some of you all, it is for you. So the fear of failure, what happens if I fail? So here's how I was able to combat that in some way, so I wasn't on the street if I would fail, or I didn't have so let's say I didn't have the money, what I would do. So what I did was I saved up $25,000 before I quit, right? So that was, I literally cut back that year, but when I was preparing, I cut back on, maybe I didn't eat out as much, maybe I didn't spend as much stuff on clothes, right? I had that number in my head, so I knew that if I were to jump out there, try that business, and the money wasn't going to come in like I thought it would, guess what? I would have a few months, more than a few months, to be able to figure it out, and I wouldn't be stressing for money. The worst thing I say, right, this, some of you all who will jump out there and you do it and you'll be okay and you'll make the money, right? But I feel like the worst thing is jumping out there and having no like safety net in some way. So I believe that if you're going to push you some of those fears that you have, right, let's say you're about to jump and do those things, it is good to make sure that you're not having to necessarily take every single opportunity that comes your way that might not be the best fit for you, because the worst thing in business is to take any and every opportunity per se, and you're doing it not because you want to do it, but because you're doing it in a mind of like lack, or you're doing it because you're desperate in some way. So that gave me the opportunity that year to try things, to go to conferences, to do so many things because I had that money saved. The second thing was, when it came to failure, is this, y'all. What would happen if, I ran out of money? Would I be able to get a job? So at that point for me, y'all, I had a degree. I had worked for multiple companies, have done really well in all those companies. And my boss told me, he was like, Daryl, if anything ever happens, like, you can come back with us, right? So I had that backup plan. And this video right now is currently being filmed in 2021, right? So there's a lot of job opportunities for people out there. That wasn't the market necessarily back then, but I knew that I could always get a job in some sort of way. I could always come back to that opportunity. But the thing is also, you can always come back to a job, right? But can you always necessarily jump out there and do those entrepreneurial things that you might want to do? So for that point, y'all, at that point, I wasn't married. I had no kids. I had no what I call like real responsibilities that I had to take care of. So I was able to take that jump and do that thing at that moment. And that was one of the reasons why I quit too, because I realized that as we get older, as we get more responsibilities, as we grow, there's sometimes bigger things that you will sometimes have to handle, and you might not always be that main priority. So therefore, if you are like in your early 20s, right now might be the best time to jump, right? Try those things out, like experience as much as you can. And for those of you all who might be in your 40s or 50, or depending on what age you are, and you might have some of those big responsibilities, you might not have to be able to quit this year. Maybe right now might not be the right time for you. Maybe it's a year from now or 2 years from now. But it's always good to have something saved up, a few months, to, if you are leaving a place of employment, maybe leave it in a way or in a great way, so therefore if you needed to come back, you were able to come back. Luckily, you all, I did not have to come back. I've been thriving. There have been some interesting moments or some moments where there was struggle along that first year and along the way. I'll share those stories at some point as well. But y'all just know, the biggest ones that I found for me was the fear of failure and the fear of like, yo, what if I run out of money? What if I'm on the street? I set up 2 ways for me that if those things were to happen, that I would be okay and I would survive and I would be able to see months ahead if I was tracking and if I need to dip into that money or if I need to go back and get a job. Luckily, I didn't have to do those things. So for me, none of those fears came true. And I hope that that's the same for you. I'm not meaning to rhyme or anything. All right, y'all. Thank you. If this video was helpful for you, like the video. Make sure you subscribe for more. Leave a comment on if you left your job and what you learned from it, or if any of these fears connect with you.